werewolf to something not necessarily horrific until you start thinking about 10 minutes on the clock. We're going into Mage, the Awakening. First off, I have to tell you that this is a game about Gnostic sorcery and hubris. What the hell is Gnosticism? Back in the 2nd century, there was a division of Jews and Buddhists that really didn't end up coming together. We didn't turn the term Gnosticism until we found their scripts later on. The concept of Gnosticism, and let me know if you've ever heard of an anime or a story that seems to reflect this. Above us, detached from this world of sin and bitterness and suffering and death and reincarnation, is a supernal world. Everything is glowing and glittering and heavenly, and God is up there. A creature named Sophia. God got too much hubris. God thought way too much of herself and fell, and through that falling created this world of baseness and sin and horror, and all of us have that spark of the divine, and the only way to scratch off and peel off burn away the chaff and take away that sin and grime of hate of this world that we've inherited is knowledge, is learning. The 2 best Gnostic texts that I recommend to you guys are the Gospel according to Mary Magdalene and the Gospel according to Judas Iscariot. Those are real texts, and you can bet the Catholic Church did not put those into one version of the Bible, but they're still out there. You can find them online. This is what happens with mages. Mages are will workers. They're called the Awaken. Because here's how this works. Remember the end of the Matrix? Here's how this works. You are a regular Tom, Dick, and Harry. You're a regular person. You are a glass cannon. Phenomenal cosmic power. Itty-bitty tiny little liver. Let's go over your awakening. Let's just go over one of my favorites, the morose, the necromancers, the ones who deal with death and matter. You're going through your normal day, and in your prelude, you are awakened. You are more aware of the world around you than you've ever been before. You are drowning in the river Styx. You are piling, being pulled down by skeletal hands that are constantly rotting and becoming dust and regrowing and rebirthing again. You climb up onto a gondolier, and some skeleton in a long black cloak hands you this leaden coin, and you write your name on it in this ancient Atlantean legend that you never knew you could write before, and then you snap out of it, and you realize you're behind the register at the Starbucks again. What just happened? You can now speak Atlantean. You now see the ones and zeros that make up the universe. As will workers, your bitch is called reality. And as any mage, you can dabble into any of the 10 spheres to start reworking reality itself. How is this a horror game? Because everyone else you can meet who's a mage who went through their own special snowflake awakening can do that to you as well. In Mage, the universe is your bitch. Based on what you have learned and how many of the 5 dots that you put into it. You will have your rotes, R-O-T-E, which are your go-to abilities. You don't necessarily need to roll for them. But this is a game that balances subtle magic with vulgar magic. Because the more open you use your magic, the more the universe catches notice of you, hates you, and wants you dead. It's called paradox. I'll give you a couple of examples. A rote allows my friend to take out their lipstick and turn it into a lightsaber. If you're in a room with a bunch of other supernaturals or other mages, they're ready for it. They see it. No paradox. If you pull that out at a convention and a bunch of the sleepers, the regular people who are not awakened, who don't know that this is not the real world, they turn and see that. That's a really great trick. It makes sense to see a lightsaber here at a convention. Okay, you pull that lightsaber out on the bus. The universe is not happy with that. That should not happen. That should not be. That lightsaber is now your arm. Where's your arm? Canada. Based on what you try to do, and your improvisational magic is what sets up this game to be so fascinating. This is a game where you have to be smarter than your players. It is party versus GM in the most sense. It is one of those very thoughtful games of how do we do this and get away with it? How do we trump this house that every time someone walks in, their memory gets wiped? And I'm pretty sure someone who leaves is now kind of a giant were-spider or were-shark. How do we deal with this? Because this is in the middle of 2 intersections with highways, with people, dang it, that are all going to be watching us. Mage the Awakening is about your building of mana points, mana pools, the most direct. Your morality stat becomes your wisdom. Your gnosis is what powers it, but your wisdom, because why should you give a crap about the rest of the world? This is not the real world. You should be able to throw a fireball whenever you freaking want, because, like I said, fire is your bitch. Lightning is your bitch. Of course I can summon a lightning bolt whenever I want to. Universe sends paradox at you, which means you can either take it into yourself and deal with that damage on your own, or let it loose. Let it affect the world around you. And the more sleepers that see that, the worse it gets. It becomes a chain reaction of paradox and entropy sucking over and hurting the world. You may need to use space and forces like, I don't know, friction to download, to speed that car as fast as you can, because you'll be damned if you're going to let your father die at the hands of... There are so many more powers bigger than you hubris little bastard. It's a game where you've got to be subtle and fight against it. Let me give you a couple of examples. The Thyrsis. You're the shamans, you're more of earth and get back to nature. You're the hippy-dippy of the mages. Life and spirit. Well, that's a stupid ability. Spirit's like what werewolves deal with. Or life. Oh, healing and regeneration. But once you start peeking into other things like matter, like I said, if you prepare your spells ahead of time, you have the advantage. But that's when the GM has been listening the whole time and knows how to throw that monkey wrench into it. You're cornered by a werewolf. As I said, Murder Burger Special has you right in its sights. And as a virus with life and spirit, you go, hey, Mr. Werewolf, you're so big. Wouldn't it be funny if, I don't know, your claws were just suddenly turned into cloven hooves and that huge mouthful of teeth were just a duckbill? That'd be funny. Oh, and it just happened. Hey, Mr. Werewolf, wouldn't it be funny if all your red blood cells suddenly turned into white blood cells? Now nothing's delivering oxygen to your body. Wouldn't it be funny if all your tendons and organs were suddenly just as solid as bone? In fact, they should be bone. Now they're bone. Wow, that's really fun. I wish I could be a werewolf. Oh, wait. Now I can be for 6 seconds. Murder Burger Special. And Mage is much more of a game of, I argue it's one of the most socially complex games because of all the different world-spanning philosophies. This is a game where there is going to be a city council or a national council, because wizards want to awaken everyone as carefully as possible, because the last thing you want is for an 8-year-old to discover they can do this and reflecting paradox left and right. The last thing you want is for someone dangerous to realize they can awaken just as easily. So you've got different paths and groups you can belong to, like the Adamantine Arrows, who will self-fortify to fight against the forces of darkness and make it a little easier. Or the Mysterium, who say, no, magic is ours, go away. Or who's the other one? The Silver Ladder, which leads everyone to believe this is a world that we can make better if you all just listen to me. A little bit of matter, a little bit of prime energy, a little bit of will working with that tells people it's just a stage show. It's just a stage show. It's a fake elephant that he just pulled out of a hat. It's one of my favorite uses of space. I like what's in your pocket. I got a wallet, you got a wallet, now your wallet is my wallet. Thank you. You can always mess with other people, but as you start getting cornered and suddenly you've got to start improvising magic, you may have to start wondering where paradox is going to shock you. Why worry about paradox? Here's why. When you reach a certain level of power, paradox slowly stops affecting you. Now, why is that an issue? Because it has to go somewhere. You can absolutely ride and summon a dragon through New York City. You absolutely can. The universe is going to have an issue with all those people looking up and not understanding what they're looking at. They're all going to start exploding. So more people are going to see that. They might start exploding. Your dragon might start exploding. You'll be fine. And then you can go back to the Starbucks and say, I quit. This world is not mine. What makes it horror is that everyone else has mage sight. Everyone else can see and hunt down what you're doing if you're not careful about it, if you don't spend that extra time collaborating and covering up your tracks. Like I said, this is an intellectual game of mystic mystery. This is really a game of a bunch of neckbeards sitting around yelling, actually! While the GM goes, actually! And then everything goes wrong. What I love about the World of Darkness system, if you don't roll a success, it's just a regular failure. If you roll a majority of ones, it's a dramatic failure. And it's a game that rewards you for things going wrong, because when things go wrong, you have to scramble, and suddenly you have to, the pile has to start piling up, because that's where the cheerleaders go. They go in that nice little pile, don't they? The dead body of cheerleaders, because you can't have more than one witness. Unless you embrace her, unless you dominate her, unless you suddenly return her to a fetal stage, unless you suddenly have her hair explode, unless you decide that you have a lot of options as mage. It's not about throwing the fireball. It's about changing that cubic yard of air around their face into chlorine gas. Have fun breathing that!